Okay, hi everyone. So I have two PowerPoints to do in one lecture today, and they're related to some advanced editing techniques. The first technique is chroma key, or as Adobe calls it, they call it the Ultra key, because you can key in on not just the chroma track, the color track, but on other things as well using the Ultra key in Adobe. So I'm going to go through the PowerPoint, the two lectures, and then at the end of this, I will show you some of these techniques in the Premiere Pro software itself by sharing that screen as well. So that's the pace of today. This lecture probably will take a half an hour at the most, but I do want to talk about some of these different advanced techniques, not only chroma key, but using your waveform to match things up that you shoot in the field, um, creating a garbage mat, the warp stabilizer, and finding missing media. So all these little things that may add up during the making of this music video, I want to try to get out in front of some of that stuff and just show you how some of these things work. So you guys may know this as green screen, and we certainly have all seen green screens in photography, in kind of television programming. In film, they tended to use blue screen. Film used a chroma blue, and they had this great process where they would remove different colors from the different printings of the film, and they could create an empty spot in the movie that could then be filled with something else. And so this was at one point an analog tool, and it's really amazingly useful. Now, I have used this in my television career probably 500 times. We use green screen primarily on set, and so we'll have a green part of the set, and what the computer software knows to do is every pixel that's green within a certain range can be made invisible, and you can insert something else into that pixel. So it's a pixel by pixel process. And I say within a certain range because you can change the parameters so that some green is keyed out and other green is not. And I have actually had that uh, become an issue where we had the daughter of Mitch McConnell, who's a very active Democrat. So that was her protest against dad. She became extremely active in the Democratic Party, and she became kind of famous during the Panama Papers story 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when they discovered all these hidden offshore cash accounts, right? And uh, Porter McConnell became pretty well known, and so we had her on the show, and I forgot to mention to her that we were taping on a green screen, not the whole set, but we had a green screen part of the set in those days. We've changed it since. But she showed up in a green shirt. And as you guys know from seeing YouTube bloopers, if you try to wear a green shirt in front of a green screen, you disappear and you become part of the weather map, right? So in our control room, we changed the settings. We changed the range of greens that would be keyed out, and we were able to adjust it so that the wall was still keyed out, but her shirt was not. And so that's what this is about today. It's about um, what color you're going to use as your ultra key. So it's not just green, although green's the most common in photography and in digital media and television. But it can be a whole range of colors. And I'm going to show you a different color in the practical part of today's lecture. So this is a green screen, and you can see that this wolf is behind some plexiglass here. Might be hard to see on the shared screen, but it's very easy with this technique to key in this wolf out in the wild, right? And if you have a sophisticated system and an operator who knows how to do it, it becomes impossible to see that it's not real. I mean, a badly done key is really easy to see. A badly done key, you'll get light reflecting off the back wall onto the subject. And so the edge of the subject's body gets keyed out. Not every pixel, but say every third pixel. And so it becomes really easy to see that it's fake in that situation where you've got, for example, too much light bouncing off the wall onto the subject. So they turn green and their green gets keyed out, right? So if it's well done, this could be a very easy process shot in which this wolf is placed into a scene with an actor. That's essentially how they do it. Now, again, Hollywood likes to use blue instead of green just because that's the film tradition going back, 75 years, to things like the Seven Voyages of Sinbad and Hercules. Ray Harryhausen did this great stuff. Also, King Kong. A lot of that was done with some process. A lot of it was also done with giant models as well. Um, all right, let's see. So, yeah, if we were in class, I would have normally shown you this video, but at this point, sorry, I didn't mean to click on that. Um, okay, so yeah, so here's an example. You can key this animatronic in front of a screen and put this animal running through a city street. So pretty straightforward, pretty clear. So when you guys are using green screen, some of the things that you need to think about are light level and making sure that the background is completely um, coherent, all in the same tone of green. So, for example, if you have a really dark shadow on your back wall, say something's in the way of the light off camera, but there's a dark shadow back there, the chroma key will key one part of that green really well and another part of that green not as well. And so you want to make sure that your chroma screen, blue, red, green, yellow, whatever, is very flat in its lighting, very flat lit. You want to record in the highest resolution possible, and then as it says on the screen here, you want to make sure that people's hair is relatively flat because any kind of errant hairs will become a little weird. Like you'll get some pixels that are keyed out, some that aren't. You'll get a halo of green both inside the hair and then on the outside you get a halo of things that are just bad. And so crazy hair can be really difficult to key through. And so I've had many times where I've had a makeup artist on the set, and the makeup artist had to go in and kind of pat the person's hair down so it wouldn't look so bad in the keyed video. Um, so normally in class I would ask to practice this, but we're not going to do that now. But you guys can practice this on your own. I did want to point out where the tool is. You can get to the edit the effects menu, and that's also, as you know, it's in your bin. So you can get to the effects down in your bin. You can get there by Shift 7 as well. And you want to search for the term ultra. And I'm going to show you guys this in just a little bit. So don't worry too much about getting it all down. But you want to search for the word ultra because, again, it's not called the chroma key in Adobe. It's not called the green screen. It's called the ultra key. And the ultra key lets you do all kinds of crazy stuff with all kinds of different colors. So there is inside this key an eyedropper that's the same as the eyedropper that you guys will have used in InDesign or in Photoshop. That eyedropper tells the system which color to key out. So essentially all you have to do is go to the best shade of green or orange or red, whatever it is. You go to that best shade, you find that color, it keys it out, and then you go into into the uh, uh, the alpha channel, and you adjust the alpha channel so that every pixel that you want keyed out becomes black and everything that you want to stay in the film is white. So we're looking at just a black and white grid, the keying and the non-keying, and you can, in the alpha channel, adjust that so it becomes a better or worse key. And here I have a slide. I've already talked about what a bad key is. You can see um, uh, I've written out here what what makes for a bad key, and you guys will know this when you see it. And again, as I told you, I'm going to show you how to fix it. Right. So when you go into the alpha channel, the black pixels are transparent, the white pixels are opaque. And what you're looking for is pure black and pure white in the same image. So an ideal key has, say, the person's face completely uh, in just the white pixels with no interference at all in their face. Because if you see any dark pixels in that, in their eyebrows or in their eye color or anything, that's going to be a bad key that's going to show through pieces that you don't want. And then it's the same with the walls. You want the walls, everything else to be all black. And if you see any white in there, you know your key's not well set and you have to adjust it by hand. So you can adjust the pedestal, the shadow, and I'm going to show you those adjustments in this practical um, lecture in a bit. And then you can change the edge of a key so that it's not so hard here on the edge, and you just soften that edge to 50, just like you would feather an edge in Photoshop or in Adobe Premiere. You know where you would use the feathering tool to make the transition more difficult to see. And that, again, also something I'm going to talk about today because I use it probably every week in my show where there's something on set or in the Zoom call, for example. Zoom puts little name boxes in there that I don't want. And I use these tools to eliminate those and to make it indistinguishable to the viewer, so they can't see that stuff that I didn't want in the show that was what that was once there. So let me stop this share, and I want to move into some techniques as well. So let me grab a different PowerPoint here, and I want to go into advanced editing tools. So we have we've talked in this short lecture about um, we talked in this short lecture about Ultra Key, and now I want to talk about some other keys as well. So let me skip ahead. There's no theoretical discussion because we're not together. And I want to talk to you about how you can use the audio waveform to merge clips and to time them based on the shape of that waveform. And so this is going to become really useful for you when you're doing a multi-camera music video shoot, and say you've got one shot, one camera on the singer, one camera on the different musicians, one camera that's a wide shot, and you're playing the song really loudly in your shoot, right? You play the song really loudly so that everybody can lip sync to it and everybody's in sync at the right time. The guitar player is playing their guitar licks at the correct time. The singer is mimicking the words, right? And if you don't play it out loud, then nobody's going to be in sync and it's going to look terrible in your final edit. So you play music really loudly, everybody hears it, everybody follows it, and you shoot with 4 or 5 cameras at once, right? And hopefully if you have a team of people, you actually have that many phones where you can do that. One handheld, one on the tripod, one on the singer, who knows? But you can also then do 3 or 4 takes and change things around so that when you get into editing, maybe you've got 10 different camera shots to use in your video. And you see that all the time. Like you'll see, I think I put in one of the modules, a Bengals video. No, I'm sorry, uh, Manic Monday. I put the video for Manic Monday in the modules, and that song had to have had at least 15 to 20 different shoot locations with those women. And you see it shot by shot by shot, the way they cut it together, but always perfectly in sync. So, anyways, all you do is you get all of your clips into your bin, everything you shot on that day. You lasso them all together. You can use Control A if that's the only thing in your bin, or you can lasso them all together. And you want to right click and choose Merge Clips, and you have to use the drop down box to synchronize by audio, right? Now, when you're in the field, you can sync using a number of different techniques. You can use camera cables, as I talk about in one of the pod lectures. You can use a clap, right? If I had 3 cameras rolling and I use this clap, all 3 cameras would show my hands coming together on video, and they would all hear that very loud clap and show it in the waveform in that exact moment. And so in the days before this Adobe Merge Clip tool, editors would have to actually move things along the timeline and put them together by eye. So editors are really skilled at this. They're really good at seeing where something's one frame off and moving it back. And typically the waveform shows you that. And the waveform, again, that loud clap is represented by a spike in the waveform. And so it becomes very easy to drag things back and forth while just looking at that. So anyways, this tool is synchronized by audio. You allow it to work, and it will put all of the clips together onto your timeline in, if there's 10 cameras, it'll be 10 tracks of audio and video. And you can then move everything around, cut, mute different tracks of audio, uh, um, stop looking at different tracks of video. It's really easy to do a multicam edit with this once you have gotten everything in place. In fact, you can even set up a multicam edit and play it through and hit the space bar to make edits as you go. And when you finish that, uh, um, I'm sorry, the space bar stops and starts. When you finish the stop and start, you're making your individual cuts in the multicam edit, and you don't see anything until you're done. But as soon as you hit stop, every edit comes in that you can then adjust back and forth. So it becomes this huge time saver. This audio merging. So it's a great new tool that's not more than a year old. I think they added it or they perfected it about a year ago. Okay, another tool I wanted to talk about is the garbage mat. And I will again show you a garbage mat in Adobe and how we use it. Again, I use this probably every week on my show. And usually it's to hide stuff on set that I don't want people to see. You basically create a second layer of video. So every piece of video has the layer one that's the real layer. And above that, you put the fake layer, right? And you're going to crop it down and feather the edge. You can even draw a mat if you want. You can do it by hand by drawing a mat in there. You don't have to just use the crop tool. And either one works the same. They work really well. So you crop it down, you feather the edge, and you move the piece of the wall that's in its original position over the piece of the wall that has to be fixed. So this mat tool is amazing for fixing small things. You can go down to 10 pixels and fix something like a really bright light reflection in a video image using this. And essentially, again, it's just stacking pieces of video, cropping down the one that's on top, feathering the edge, and hiding it. And almost always, an audience will never even know that it's there. They just won't even think to look at it. So creating a garbage mat is up today. Warp stabilizer. A lot of you guys know this already. The warp stabilizer is an amazing tool in that it takes a regular image, let's say it's a 4K image, and it blows it up from 100% to, say, 103. And after it blows it up, it identifies individual pixels and how they move accidentally in the field. So I've got a handheld camera, my hand is shaking. What the warp stabilizer tool will do is it will identify individual pixels. It will see that pixel A moves from here to here and back over the course of, say, 6 frames. So it will lock down pixel A into an exact position, and it will adjust the whole frame to fit that individual pixel. So you guys can see sometimes it's a complete disaster and it doesn't work, but sometimes it really does. The warp stabilizer can be an amazingly useful tool. And all you have to do is you go into your effects menu and type in warp, and you put it between, you put it on a clip. You put it on a clip. It will blow it up. It will adjust the borders of the image so that the pixels stay still, and then it will crop that border. Now, the downside of that can be that if you have really low quality video and you put the warp stabilizer on, it'll become lower quality when it's blown up. And also sometimes there's so much movement that you just can't fix it at all. But say you have a drone shot and the drone is a little bit shaky, the warp stabilizer could be an amazing fix to that little bit of wind movement and create a really smooth, effective move. If you find that you put the warp stabilizer on and it won't let you do things like change the speed, right? It's not going to let you change the speed to 80% and then do a cut where you go to 150% and then another cut where you go super slow motion. All you have to do is export it out as an MOV or export it out as an MP4 and then bring it back into your timeline on a different space, and it will now be in your timeline as a new piece of video that's been stabilized that can then be cut around, and you can add effects to that as well. So Warp Stabilizer is an absolutely amazing tool. Again, one that I use probably almost every week in my professional life. Okay, so I normally in class I would have you guys practice this now, but let me just show you again, just before I go into my own timeline. And you guys are welcome to open up your Adobe timelines now and practice along with me. So maybe that's a good thing for you to do is open up Adobe and see if you can't try to do some of these. When you're using the warp stabilizer, you can continue to work on other things in your movie. It's not going to completely freeze the system. It will take a lot of RAM and it might slow it down in other places, but you can keep working while it's working. And sometimes it takes 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes to get something done. When it's done, the bar that says analyzing will switch to orange to say that it's finished. Then you render it and you see what you've got and if it's worth keeping. Okay, almost done here. I've got a couple of slides left. Um, I want to talk about two more things. That's missing media. And you'll see missing media as a red box in your preview window. It'll look red on your timeline and it'll show up italicized in the text in your bin. And you can't output your movie if there's any missing media. So if, for example, you're working from your SD card, you forget to put the SD card back in the machine. When you go back to re-edit, you can't do anything because the media is missing. Or if you guys have seen when you switch the files from person to person, group to group, that if one person changes the path for media, everybody else has to make that same change if you're sharing the same timeline. So that's kind of problematic. I think Adobe will fix it in the next year or two where everything's going to be up on a hub in the cloud. And once that's done, this will be less of an issue. But there's the step-by-step for relinking missing media. It's not difficult. And what's really amazing versus the old days, like 5 years ago, you had to relink yourself every single clip. Now, if you relink one in a folder, it will link everything else that's in that folder. Emmanuel, 1 second, I'll get you. You get the first question after we're done. Okay, last thing is the Morph edit. And the Morph edit, again, all you have to do is go into your effects menu and search Morph. Oh, sorry. Go into your effects menu and search Morph. And this covers jump cuts almost perfectly. I used it, I used it myself on 2 videos this week. And I find it to be incredibly helpful. So look for Morph. Put it on a jump cut where you're doing a YouTuber video. You say something, then you make a mistake and you start over again. What the Morph edit will do is you can cut out the mistake, push the 2 pieces together, and even though it's the same camera, it will, again, almost like it does with the warp stabilizer, it will figure out where those pixels should have been, and it will morph them into the right space. It's kind of very similar to the Michael Jackson black or white video from, I think, the late 80s. Maybe it was on the Bad album from '89. But anyways, that's it for that. So I'm going to stop the share. I'm also going to stop the recording. So just bear with me 1 second while I stop the recording.